All right, I'll wait for Stormy to we just got off of the meeting with the BIE, which, yay, because I think our message from Oklahoma and from also Alaska is still out there, that we really want everyone at the federal level to understand that the BIE, this was not the intent that the money or the regulations limit students. But as we lobbied, we wanted to embrace more students to receive the services from Johnson O'Malley, and that's what Congress wanted. And Langford and Cole and, oh my gosh, I could go on, supported our initiative. So we'll work on that, and we'll keep plugging away as we look at services. And you know, Spike, in working with him in the beginning, had not done via Johnson O'Malley. So explaining to him the DAWs and getting him to understand that many of our kids come to us with just that, that's issued by the BI Bureau. So anyway, but we're going to continue to fight the fight for the students of Oklahoma, and I, as a national board member, for students across the entire United States. So with that, we're going to start a little bit about circles of reflection. Let me tell you how this got started and where it's going and what it has become. When I first came in November, I wasn't here but maybe 3 or 4 days, and was asked where I was with the circles of reflection. Well, nowhere, because I didn't even know it existed. And the circles of reflection, if you'll go to page 2, the next page, Stormy, was a request to several states across the United States, and actually came from the National Center of Education, where they wanted tribal departments and LEAs and TEAs to work together and form a baseline of how they could become a team. Well, when I first came, I had to actually contact this agency because I really did not know what we needed to do, because Oklahoma had not done anything and they were wanting my answers, in which I had none. So anyway, I want to share with you what's happening and what we did and the work we've done. And we have a lot more to do, but it's something that's going to take time. If you look at the first circle, sing from the inside out, my first assignment that they gave me, and I visited with the executive department, the superintendent's office, the chief of staff, those that I reached out to and said, I need volunteers and I need some departments to begin to develop the circles of reflection. So they in turn gave me, I think at the end, there were like 13 different individuals that would be a part of the Circles of Reflection team. We were looking at, teacher, pulling in and encouraging our Native students to become educators or work in the educational field. We were looking at college and career. How does the State Department work with tribes and schools on encouraging our students to go to college and or to a technical school? How do we look at improving and expanding the languages within our schools as an elective to be able to get a credit? How do you get certification? How do you get an OCAS code? So we begin to pull those departments together. So what happened, we had a set of questions that were given to us from the Circles of Reflection team. And our team just happened to be out of Arizona, my leader, Mario. And Mario threw these questions out to the State Department of Education and would ask them, how do you communicate to schools and to tribes on college and career? Rank yourself. So for 4 hours, we ranked ourselves on what we did and did not do. And that was quite interesting because at the end of the day, you think you're doing great, but as you begin to assess the big picture, as with everything, guys, communication was just not where we needed it. So then the next, and we're going to go through this with some slides, the next circle, widening the circle. And then I was asked to reach out to SEAs, which was the State Department, LEAs to schools, and TEAs, which are tribes. So I thought Oklahoma is unique because we have so many small school districts and we have 39 tribes. So in the process of reaching out, I contacted the Choctaw Nation, the Muskogee Nation, the Osage Nation, the Iowa Tribe of Oklahoma, the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes, Tahlequah Public Schools, Stigler Public Schools, Broken Arrow Public Schools, Edmond Public Schools, Durant Public Schools, Oklahoma City Public Schools, because that encompassed large schools, middle schools, high native, no native. Some of these schools do not even sit on any tribal land in Oklahoma. And then we began to look at the answers that the State Department gave. And naturally, those that are on here that were a part of that know that we didn't always agree, because when the State Department thought that they were communicating certain things, others would come back and say, but we didn't know that. It was a great, great process, because then we began to look at each other and say, how can we make this better? New kid on the block, can start from scratch, which I did, and we began to communicate. And the interesting part was the third circle, mapping a path forward. And again, we spent 4-hour gatherings to map a 90-day path and future aspirations with the Office of Indian Education, the tribes, and the public schools in Oklahoma. Next slide, please. So it came about that we began to look at state policies and programs and practices that across the state with Native history and culture. And then the State Department, how did we encourage tribal speakers and cultural experts in school programs? And how did the State Department create pathways for certification to honor this? Describe how the State Department shared student data with tribes. And the State Department encourages and supports the recruitment of Native students to serve as future leaders and administrators. So these became the objectives out of many, many hours of going over what we should do, not do. And Oklahoma is unique. You can go to the next slide, please, because we have 39 tribes, 38 federal, 1 state. with over 540 school districts. And it looks easy, but we discovered it wasn't as a team. So the State Department, we began to reach out to all tribal educational leaders and trying to create a list that was updated with the right email address is quite hard, just so you know that. In fact, I reached out to a couple of tribes on this Zoom today to say, help me, do you know who this is? Because sometimes you couldn't always get the right person on board. And then my friend at OU, she took my list and she began to try to help me to see who is the person that is actually the educational leader. Because as long as I had a name, then we could, at that point in time, reach out to the tribes. So we sent the tribal letter on consultation to all tribal leaders. And then we began to pull together the tribal educational leaders so that we now have a list of individuals we can send an email to. And then we began to create the Zooms every month. It had already started when I came, but we began to expand it to tribal educational leaders and are willing to be a part of cultural activities in public schools. And then again, before I can post anything on the State Department website, it has to be approved, making sure that it is something that the tribe doesn't have a problem with. And then the State Department reach out to schools to obtain a distribution list of individual schools have used or who were successful and willing to be listed. And again, those are distribution lists that right now cannot be posted as we begin to work with schools to say, hey, Edmond Public Schools, can you share your activities with Mulgi Public Schools or vice versa? But in time, we will start having a distribution list of sharing of ideas. Objective number 3. Then the SDE, which is me, began to reach out to regional accreditation officers on how to improve data collection procedures. Some of you guys are aware, and I hope most of you are, that House Bill 1104 was passed, and it is not going to just include federally recognized tribes in the drop down in the wave, but it's also going to include state. I double checked that with Eric prior to this meeting. But within that process, and it became effective August the 25th. So if you have any of your vendors telling you they have 90 days, that is incorrect. I've already had a call. Someone took the 90 days from August the 25th. They were notified back in March that this would be coming. I do know that I've had one school send me an email of the challenges from kids, students moving from one school to the other with that information carrying over. So if you're on this Zoom today, please, if you're having any concerns or any issues when it comes to getting that information into your student management system, which will then be connected to the WAVE, please email Eric. And if you'd like to CC me, that helps me visit with him and other individuals here at the State Department on making sure we get this up and running. I know that Eric is hoping to look at it in September to see where we are. And then we're hoping in March of this next year to begin running some reports, which tells us some of the same things that some of you and all the schools have. This is also going to open an avenue for the 39 tribes of Oklahoma, that if they choose to go into a contract with the State Department of Education, and that contract has been drafted, and if any tribe on this call wants to email me that you as the Osage tribe of Oklahoma, Osage Nation, would like to go into a contract with the State Department to see the information, so you know where your Osage students are in Oklahoma so that you can better serve them. Just send me the email, and we have an office here at the State Department that will reach out to you and gather the information and get the contract to your tribal leaders that are authorized to sign it. So I think in the next year to 2 years, you're going to see much more of communication among tribes and schools, excuse me, with so many of our students eligible for free and reduced lunch. That too opens the door for them to be eligible for other services throughout Oklahoma. Object 4. Reach out to tribes, organizations, and colleges in Oklahoma and colleges outside of Oklahoma that Native students attend to learn about opportunities available for encouraging Native students to become teachers and leaders, and post on the SDE website. As stated, I can only apologize because I'm trying very hard to get our website updated, but this also came out. And if any of you listened to our workshop today on the first draft of the college and career guide that we're getting from our doctoral student at OU, she's created that basis. We're also wanting to put on our website, the NIA has, and I visited with Diane, they've done a lot of research on colleges outside the state of Oklahoma that Native American students are eligible to apply for their scholarships. And that is on the NIA website currently. So we're in the process of getting permission from several different agencies so that we can put that on our website. And I'm also wanting the college and career department here at the State Department to reach out to those across Oklahoma, because not all schools have counselors for just Native American students. So that means all counselors will be responsible and should be responsible for all of our students. Next slide, please. And so there is the team that we reached out to as we begin to discuss what we were going to do. And everybody was very vocal, and that was perfect. And that was great because I needed people to keep giving us input. I'm sorry, do I have another slide? Or is that the end of the slide, Stormy? I'm not sure.
That's the end of them.
Okay.
At the last page, but it's blank.
Okay. All right. The circles of reflection has much more to go. In fact, it was several pages, but we're in the process of trying to go back through, and I took much of the input from all the different individuals on what we needed to do at the state of Oklahoma. So on our website, and Stormy and I actually talked today, we've sent it over for review because you must get everything approved prior to post, and that's normal whether you're in a school, work a tribe, or at the State Department. And we're hoping to get these links on our website for college and career. I will tell everyone on this website that on one of the goals we talked about recruiting. We have a committee here at the State Department that included colleges, and we're looking at what can we do to encourage our Native young people to become educators or teachers assistant in the schools, or any of those jobs that we feel like are critical to our students because they are in need of excellent, outstanding mentors. So the reflections of team has become my baseline. And right now we've been so busy trying to get this going. I was hoping that they could come to the face-to-face and we could continue discussing, but they will be asked to come back together in the fall so that we can look at where we are and what we've accomplished. The website will accomplish many of these things. And if you go onto the current website for the State Department of Education, there are several areas there where you will see Native American drop downs and other departments, because I truly believe that I can provide technical assistance, but we as a team at the State Department of Education have to work together to support whatever you're doing out in the schools. Again, whether it's family services and an outstanding family services department here that has so many resources for our families. And we all know that through this time of COVID, that many of our families are in need of the support of counseling and services. So if Stormy will go back to the very first page where it talks about, I'm probably gonna lose my voice by the time the end day's over, circles of reflection. So anyway, I do not see any representation from small. I lost it there for a minute. I was only allowed to choose. So I had more than this chosen, but I was also asked to by the Circles of Reflection out of Arizona to limit the number that I invited. I don't have a problem with, as we go forward, to add representation from other rural districts. So if you are interested in being a part of the Circles of Reflection team, I would love that you email me, but I was sort of limited on how many I could ask from all. And also too, the reason Tahlequah was chosen because they had so many Native students within their back door. But if anyone on this Zoom would like to be a part of our discussion as we expand what we're doing, I'd be more than happy to include you. And since I can't tell where you're from, I don't know, it's hard. There's over 540 schools in Oklahoma, so it does make it hard on where do you tap and try to reach the entire state. So, but your input is great. Let me know and I'll add you. If you'll send me an email at jackie.white@sde.ok. Forgot my email. US. I've got so many emails between the state board. I would be more than happy to add you. I'd like to open it up for questions. And if I'm chatty, I'm giving out sde.ok.gov. Thank you, Stormy. I've got 5 emails. Or what you would like to see us moving forward with. We've got Zooms. Remember, we're a small department and we're trying desperately to get things going. I think if the web page gets up and the guide is up and we start doing training for parents and helping you in the schools, we've at least expanded services. And I do know that I've heard from many tribes that this is the first time that they've been a part of a dialogue between the schools on our monthly meeting. And again, the next one's October 7th. And if you're not on those, send us your email address and we'll make sure. Are there other major items that you would like us to work to put in our long-term goals? And again, communication was one of the first ones that we discovered. It just wasn't getting out there. And that's not an uncommon problem across all entities, whether it's State Department, tribal, public schools. I think even schools, as many years as I worked there, communication was the one factor that would make or break what we did.
I have a question.
Okay.
I've brought this question to the attention of our local JOM service, actually our district-wide JOM people. And then they told me once I came to this meeting, maybe I could address it there.
Okay.
I'm also a teacher, so I think not a whole lot of people are worried about it, but I am because I'm a teacher.
Okay.
The House Bill 1775
Okay.
that was brought to the floor, and it was passed about the things that we can talk about as far as our historical background, things we cannot say, things we cannot teach. It's a huge list. Nobody has really addressed that in our community, and I'm concerned about what we can teach and what we can't teach when we pull our students for our cultural classes, things like that.
Okay, let me tell you what I know. According to the direction from the State Department of Education, you go back and you teach the state standards because that is all been approved. So if you have concerns or questions, please go to the state standards. I did also ask for a ruling in regard to these challenge bowls, because many of our tribes hand out guides to the schools for the challenge bowl activities. And those are separate from House Bill 1775. So you can take those guides from your tribal entities, and you can teach what's in those tribal guides to the students. But you need to stay and focus on the state standards.
Okay. Are we going to have any type of training or any type of, I just feel like I'm not the only one that's concerned, or I almost feel like there's not enough people that are worried about it.
You know what, I can't answer that because that would be something that would not come out of this office, but I wrote it down a note. Can you send me an email to my State Department website? And
Yes.
then I will get back with you. But right now, this is the information I've been told is go to your state standards and or use the guides from, I know the Muskogee Nation gives out a guide. I think the Cherokee Nation gives out a guide for the challenge bowls. And I'm thinking the Choctaw and Chickasaws do. And after that, I'm not sure. I'll plead ignorance. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So send me an email, and because all I have is just the little screen I see, and I will, and I'll see if I can get you any more clarification.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Lisa, to everyone, I would like help about transition guides. I guess I'm going to have to ask, could you clarify what you mean by transition guides? I'm writing notes. And also, Jackie, Susan, I will tell you that I'm getting more and more requests and information from tribes about some of the special needs kids that are being served in public schools and that how that works. So I'd be more than happy to work with you, but I also work very closely with the special education department at the OSDE. We have a huge department, and I was a former special education teacher and director. So I've known many of them for many years, but wouldn't know. The more we have and the more we look at the big picture, I think the more that we can help our students and understand it. So, and Susan, you're a program specialist. Okay, I'm trying to look at these and drill down. Okay. Yep. Yeah, Courtney was talking about students 6th grade and up. More and more schools are doing this. They're having kids connect to a college or a career at the at the 6th grade level. And maybe that is something that we might, as a group, begin to work with many of the schools across Oklahoma in encouraging our kids. I do know that there are some tribes out in our community. I can't call their names because they're working on some activities where they would like to work in their communities with their schools on working with students at the 6th grade level and up to look toward college and help them understand there's many avenues out there for funding so that they don't think that it's strictly you have to be rich and famous to go to college or to a VOTEC. So I do know that's out there. I just do know there's some, and I don't know where they are with it. But college and career is on our radar. And I've also worked with our college and career program here at the SDE. But that would be a good topic for us to work across the state on how can we help our students navigate that way. It's like I've always said, my favorite people in my neighborhood are who throw the paper, deliver my mail, and pick up my trash, because if they can't read or write or have great personalities, it hurts us. Great comments. What else is out there? Hi, Jessica. I just saw you. Some of you guys I haven't got to see in a while. What other, again, these emails are important to me about, and I mean, I can't do it in a day, but I can sure put it on the radar. I'm trying. What else are we in need of? At the, all right, about the state standards, you need, the state standards are posted on the State Department of Education website. And about, I don't know who's on here, but some of you were a part of it. If the Chickasaw Nation or the Muskogee Nation is still on, they may be doing workshops right now. I know when they looked at some of the, and who else should be on here? Lucianne, are you still on? Several people were, several tribal individuals were invited in to look at the state standards in the social studies area. And I want to stay also in the language area to have their input. So you, Lucianne, you don't have to open your picture, you can. You might help me update this. It happened several years ago prior to my coming, but they did invite individuals in so that they could have input in the social studies area. And I think we were told that they also had input into the language areas. So the tribes are being invited in along with other individuals that are serving our Native population as they update the standards. But is that correct, Lucianne? Did I say it correctly?
Yes, there were probably out of maybe 80, there were approximately 25 to 30 Indian educators, representatives from tribes, schools, and just educators across the state who gave input on the standards at different levels. So some participated in the drafting, others participated in, I forget the different levels, I guess, different teams that work together to create the social studies standards. But yes, it was
right.
a
And
good
the
representation.
Intent, right, thank you. And the intent is to continue reaching out to our tribal representatives and or our managers of Indian education across Oklahoma to be a part of that. And it's really shown up in, and I know Lucianne's still on because she has been a part of this with me, when we begin to look at the NAEP testing and the different questions asked our students across Oklahoma. And we're discovering that if you don't ask a student the question in a way they understand it, you may not get the correct answer. And so when you get asked, are you a member of a tribe versus are you a citizen of a tribe versus do you know what you are? We're learning a lot, aren't we, Lucianne, that as we roll out and look across Oklahoma in teaching our educators as they work with our students, and especially the regular classroom teachers that are working with our students on terminology, because terminology, if it's not understood, we're not going to get the answers we want on many of our testing of our Native American students. So also too, we're also in a process, and this is sort of a ... of circles of reflection. The OSDE board has many positions that are either appointed by the governor or appointed by higher ed, etc. And these are the same type of items that we'll look at and they will determine as some of their initiatives as we roll out 21, 22. So your input on this is great. And Lucianne, thank you so much for clarifying that or
I can
backing
give
me
you
up,
the-
because that's what my assumption was. I couldn't remember how many, but
I actually
25,
can-
okay.
I can actually give you a little bit more representation numbers. When
Okay.
the Oklahoma Academic Standards for Social Studies went into effect in May of 2019, the focus on tribal sovereignty quadrupled in the social studies standards. And the State Department received tribal perspectives on all 3 committee levels at the drafting, writing, and executive levels. Also, additional input solicited from focus groups and different perspectives from tribal leaders, Title VI directors, JOM program staff, and other staff in our schools was considered. So there were, at the drafting committee, there were 6 Native representatives. And on the writing committee, there were 7. And the focus group included 17 representatives from tribal communities. And so that's how the social studies standards was created and passed. With the input of Indian educators and tribal leaders across the state.
Thank you so much. That's more detail in that. That's great, because we want to continue with that push that we have input in the state standards as we move forward. Will you talk about what is required for House Bill 1104? You must be a citizen of a federal or state recognized tribe. Is for JOM in Title VI, but for House Bill 1104, the law is clear. If I walk into your school and tell you I am a member of the Cherokee Nation of Tahlequah, you cannot require me to show you my citizenship card. You simply take it, the information, and you put it into your student management system. It then becomes the responsibility of the program manager to run reports out of your student management system to see what students qualify for Johnson O'Malley and or Title VI funding. And I did ask for clarification. This bill does not require documentation. So if a student walks in and wants to declare himself as an American Indian or Alaska Native, you simply go in there, and type if it's a member of a federal or a recognized tribe or a state recognized. Now for clarification, if that tribe that this child mentions is not on the list, then they cannot be put into the system. So no validation, but they must be on the federal or state list for tribes. Does that help? But they don't have to have their card with them or anything. You simply, that's your duty as a Native American program manager. That list is, the list is on, if they are members of more than one tribe. I think that I honestly don't know if the system lets you put 2. I haven't tried it. Has anybody tried to put in 2? I don't know that question. I don't know that answer. I think I would put in the 1. I don't know. Have they put in 2? What's happening? My screen's moving around here. Just lost my screen. I don't know that answer. I need to find that out. I don't know that answer, Lisa. I've never tried it, so I don't know if there are more than one tribe. Can they list both? I'll find that out. All right, did you see that? They have Power School, and it might be it may be the software that you have. But the list, all vendors have to have that list put in your student management system, but also on the workshop that I gave earlier, we did post the website of all of the federally and state recognized tribes that you could go to. All right, everyone's saying they can only do one. So I would, I typically add the tribe that provides more resources as the primary and the secondary tribe in the notes. Good idea. See, isn't it nice to see all these answers so you know what to do? All right. Other questions? I'm going to ask a question that's sort of different in regard to circles of reflection. We're doing a monthly meeting on, and we last about an hour and a half with certain topics, and I've already been given 3 topics that a couple of individuals like to go over in October. This has turned out to be really a good and a great way to visit with everyone, even though I wanted to see you all face to face. I truly believe we have more people participating. So if we might continue with the month to month, but maybe in the spring we can have another statewide meeting like this where I can open, and so we can all talk and share ideas, and you can log on and see PowerPoints from different individuals. But right now, COAS has been so good to assist with this. So I'm watching my time because I ran out of time earlier, and I actually have another presentation. The next presentation is going to be a lot of question answers. I will be addressing the changes in time and effort sheets. I've been asked that. And a few things. It probably will not last a full hour. It's going to simply be anyone that wants to log on and ask questions. And I'll be, Sarah's going to take notes for me, and I'm going to open the floor on some things that I've received. But please note, Circles of Reflection will continue, and we have a full plate to get done. But know that the State Department of Education and the tribes and the schools have a wonderful communication going on once a month. So with that, Erica has a question, I believe. Her hand is up. I'm trying to look up and down.
You already answered my question.
Okay, well, your hand's still up, and I honestly don't know how to put it down. I'm sort of like Spike. This is not my forte.
I got it.
Okay, I'm still paper and pencil. Okay, I love paper and pencil. All right. Any other questions? How about comments from the group? Lucianne, is there anything that you and I've been working on that I might share with this group that expands the Circles of Reflection? I am going to Lawton next week, and I'll be coming back to Middale to visit with them. I've been sort of all over the state, and all you have to do is send me an email and invite me. I'd love to see your programs. I'd love to share your ideas. I will tell you that in November, depending naturally on COVID and how we're going, the Thunder has asked that we have a Native American activity. And I know Oklahoma City's already said that they have some princesses, I believe they said. And I've had a few other groups that say they would like to be show their regalia and be a part of the opening ceremonies at the game. And we're looking at providing some professional development for students prior to the game, so that you could write this into your Johnson O'Malley grant as a program activity. So I've met with them once, and I'm sort of waiting to see what they can offer to these Native American students. And with the registration that you do for all the activities, they will get a ticket to go into the ball game. So not sure when that's going to happen. I'm sort of still waiting for them to let me know what they're wanting to share with us. Questions from anyone? Anyone else? I'm scanning pictures because nothing. Stormy, is there anything I'm forgetting? Did I get all the chat answers done or am I missing
I
any?
think you got everything, Jackie.
Okay,
I
all
think
right,
there's- Jackie, I have one comment or
okay, all right, Lucian,
question. It
okay,
is, we are receiving more requests from teachers in our schools for resources that they would like to utilize to teach on the social studies standards. A lot of them are uncomfortable with the topic of tribal sovereignty. And so we are trying to meet their needs from our program's perspective, but from the state side, how is your office answering this question and this request for teacher resources?
okay, well, the only question, and I'll have to research this more, Lucian, on procedures, but the only question that I had received, and it's been some time ago, was the resources on books that were focusing on Native American authors and or stories about Native American students. I honestly have had no direct emails to me about resources on tribal sovereignty. So let me research that and I will get back with you, and maybe on October 7th, I can answer that question. The one I received they were trying to purchase books and under Title VI, if it was not specific to Native American and are specific to Native authors, their purchase order was rejected. So I worked on that. So the only question I've received so far, and I was, given the instruction because I asked, was that to use the state standards. But that's a great question, and I will do some research on that. And on October 7th or prior to, let me see if I can give you guys a good, clear answer. I will be gone to the National Johnson O'Malley Conference, so know that I won't be doing. I'll answer some questions at night, but I'll be there most of very busy presenting and doing many other things. So great question. I don't know that answer. So I will see what resources they're saying that are available. Any other questions like that, Lucian, that you're getting other than resources on tribal sovereignty? Is that it? All right. Any
Hey,
other
Jackie.
questions? Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, it's Sarah.
Okay.
Hi. Hello. Hey,
Hi.
I just wanted to advocate really quickly, and maybe this is something that, outside of circles of reflection, but we're getting questions, and there seems to be questions on the last session too about IEPs and parents' roles and, advocating for their own children. And I'm just wondering, I know the State Department has so many resources on that, but to a general parent committee or parent that doesn't know, basic information about how to advocate for your own child, maybe that's something that, could be presented in some way specific to tribes or, kind of involving ourselves, or what we can do to support parents or how parents support their children.
And that has come up, Sarah, more than once. And I do know that you, Muskogee Nation, have already received a concern, and I've already worked with another school that had too many students on IEPs, and because of the way they set up testing. So it is a concern. And was it, I think it was in the College and Career that she said that it appeared that too many of the students that were tested were placed in special education. So I agree, that's another avenue that we need to look at to make sure, as a former special education teacher and director, language is not a deficit and makes a child handicapped if it is language impaired. But there's also different areas within special education where we can help our students improve their language. And if they do speak two or more languages, sometimes they end up not doing well on certain tests. So it is something that I wouldn't mind. In fact, I'm sitting here thinking maybe the special education department might be a group that I bring on for 15 minutes on October 7th to talk about what we can do to better educate our parents of our students who are Native American and are also on a 504 plan and are deemed handicapped through an IEP. That might be an area that at the beginning of school especially, we want to make sure our kids are successful. So tribal sovereignty and IEPs might be two areas that we bring to the table in addition to what tribes are needing. You know, public schools, I need to know, the tribes want to know, what do you want from them? What type of communication, what type of services? So we'll be asking you to also give the tribes input on October 7th. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Lucienne. That's two different items we're talking about. Did I get an answer on the transition guide on what we were needing, what type of transition guide? Did that get clarified? So I was making sure that I knew exactly what we were talking about, or did I miss it? If someone, whomever put that out on the chat, if you'll send me an email on what you're wanting or what you think you need, I would love it. And that gives me a little bit more information. All right, I'm not going to be late this time, Stormy. I'm not going to have you tell me to be quiet and get off. Again, she knows she has to keep me on track because I have another one right after this. Circles of reflection. It was what it says. We had to go and look back and reflect our communication and what we really want to happen in a state of 39 tribes. And I want you to know, whenever Spike talked about the 570,000, according to our information here, there's over 150,000 students in Oklahoma that are members, citizens of tribes. Think about that, guys. If I have 150,000 in Oklahoma, I'd say our tribal count is down and it's not correct. So I want to work very diligently with all the tribes in Oklahoma to go out and make sure that all of your students that are biracial, that have two or more, that you make sure that you have met with those families to provide them services and to also make sure they're in your student management system. So with that, I'm going to say stay safe and have a great evening. And I'm going to leave and get on the next Zoom. And I'm hoping all of you, if they send out, and Stormy, are they sending out a request on whether they like the workshops? Is that going to happen? It usually does, doesn't it? I think. Events office, if you're there, I don't know that
I will
answer.
ask the events office, but I'm not.
Well, and somebody asked me and I didn't know the answer. So I figure they will in time. So with that, everyone have a great evening. And I'm going to leave this meeting so that I can, oh, Amanda just said we will be sending a survey. And I hope that you like this. And I hope that I've provided through the invitation I have of all the people I work with that have presented today good information. And you do a lot in 50 minutes. So anyway, have a good one. And I will see each of you next if you're on. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.